Hello, and welcome to the second part of my ePortfolio guided tour. The second part of my guided tour is a video diary of my learning process while creating this ePortfolio. First of all, I believe that constructivism was the primary theoretical framework that shaped my work in the construction of this ePortfolio. At the beginning of eTech 590, we were placed into small working groups, and our group work at the beginning of the course was helpful as it allowed us to collectively critique and analyze previous student ePortfolios synchronously using Google Docs. And I'll open up Google Docs to show you. This is a chart my group collaborated on, and we looked at previous ePortfolios created for this course along with portfolios created outside of the MET program. And we organized our observations based on criteria from related literature and the course, such as purpose, the intent and audience, the navigation, organization and layout of each ePortfolio, the artifacts, particularly the quality of reflections that were written, the themes of each ePortfolio, along with metaphors or any overarching questions. And then we also looked at the potential tools and platforms we could use for our own ePortfolios, listing the pros and cons of each. We organized our chart based on positive impressions or attributes of each element of the portfolios we were analyzing them on, as well as negative impressions. And I found this particularly useful for me because I referred to this chart as I was building my own ePortfolio. Going back to the ePortfolio now, something else I wanted to mention too was that we had the chance to give each other informal feedback within our group as our assessment rubrics were unfolding. And throughout the working process of the ePortfolio, there were opportunities for informal feedback on our proposals and ePortfolios in progress, as well as designated peer reviews. I will open up Vista to show you what I mean. This course, eTech 590, was structured similarly to other MET courses that I had taken, but there were specific areas where we could post our draft ePortfolios in progress for informal feedback, as well as formal feedback opportunities in the form of Peer Review 1 discussion forum and Peer Review 2 discussion forum. In addition, we could also post questions about the functionalities of our ePortfolio platforms to the rest of the class through discussion forums titled Q&A or technical support. Our peers supported each other in that manner as well as responding to and posting questions. Although I produced a unique and individual ePortfolio, constructivism definitely played a role in its building process. Now back to the ePortfolio, we'll take you to the bottom of the overview page where I want to draw attention to my proposal. Now, my proposal was key in helping to establish my framework and overview, and without this in place at the beginning, along with the assessment rubric, I would definitely not have any direction in building the ePortfolio. I just want to open this up and draw your attention to one element, which was my audience. As you can see, I've listed my audience here, my intended audience for my MET portfolio, which would include current and prospective MET students, MET instructors and professors, colleagues, future employers, my own students, and myself. Given that my viewership was going to be broad, I needed to develop an ePortfolio that was appealing. So going back to the home page of my ePortfolio, what I did was I wanted to keep the interface simple with a dark background, an appropriate number of pictures on each page, and I also wanted to have a consistent layout with background music reflecting the laid-back nature of jazz music. Going back to the overview page here, what I did was I actually combined my objectives and my purpose from my proposal because I was repetitive in some areas and I needed to be more succinct. And looking at my objectives right now, my objectives actually became my outcomes. I would say that, as an example, my ePortfolio, the outcome of the ePortfolio was me demonstrating transformative growth and learning, as well as cognitive processes in the MET program. And I do have, as an outcome, a tool that assists me to extend and apply my learning in professional contexts beyond my current teaching setting. Now on to the next part, which is metaphor and themes. Onto the framework page here. Now, as I explained in the first video, I wanted to present my ePortfolio in a dual structure, meaning themes embedded in a metaphor to help add more depth and layers. And you will notice that the organization of my ePortfolio is actually focused more on the artifacts and their links to the themes rather than the courses. I incorporated a metaphor that I am interested in, specifically the inner structure or workings of a jazz music ensemble. Now, the most challenging part was figuring out how to articulate this dual structure, because one of my peers had pointed this out to me, and to be honest, I did not know how I was going to do it. I had an idea of how the artifacts would tie in with each of the four models of the 21st century learner, and how I knew this at the beginning was constructing this concept map, because I needed to map out my thinking and my connections. What I initially did, and I'm just going to open up another document here from my proposal, was I listed all of the artifacts I was going to include, and I color-coded the model of 21st century learner that I knew I was going to tie it with. Now, initially, I listed 12 artifacts, but I only ended up using 9 in the end. The reason why was because I wanted to achieve a certain level of depth with my reflections, and it was simply easier to do this with fewer artifacts. Then I proceeded, after I created my concept map, back to the concept map here, after I laid this out and I mapped out my themes, I mapped out all of the skills that each artifact used, I mapped out their connections back to 21st century learning and teaching skills and their interconnections, and any other themes that came up, for example down here, creativity and innovation. I then was able to write my artifact reflections. I had this to refer to throughout the artifact reflection process, so that I could always link back to the theme of 21st century learning. And I wanted to specifically explain how I applied a 21st century model learning skill in constructing that specific artifact. Now, going back to my portfolio, as an example, we'll look at the collaborator page. So on the collaborator page, I included 2 artifacts that link up to collaborator learner model skills. One obvious one was my eTech 510 group design project on critical thinking and internet literacy, and the other, perhaps not as obvious link, was my eTech 565A learning management system site on digital citizenship. The reason I included this project was, even though it was individual, the working process was dependent on my collaborator learner skills. On the WISE Analyzer page, I included artifacts that utilized research skills and required in-depth reflections. For example, my eTech 500 literature review and research proposal on gender issues in technology, and this strongly connects with what I wrote in my initial statement of intent to the MET program. I also included my eTech 532 lit review and research paper on flipped classrooms, and finally, my last WISE Analyzer artifact was my EDCP 432, a summer institute on recurring questions in technology, and I built an educator's guide to online intellectual property. Now, the free agent page and the creative synthesizer page are structured in similar ways, so I invite you to read these pages and pay careful attention to my connections between my artifact reflections, metaphor, and theme. Now, after completing all my artifact reflections, I saw that 21st century learning skills such as critical thinking, internet literacy, and collaboration continuously came up in the reflections, so I was confident I could link back to the theme. In backwards design, fashion, I then built my overview page, which was my third main page of my ePortfolio. And I knew that on this page, I needed to thoroughly explain my themes. I also wanted to ensure that the reader was introduced to my mission statement or teaching philosophy and understand that this was the foundation of my ePortfolio. This is why I only devoted one page to just the overview. I wanted the themes to be presented in isolation. I wanted to take the time to explain them, how the artifacts were situated in the themes and their interconnections. So again, that goes back to the concept map I've been referring to. And also, a visitor could read through each of the 21st century model pages, look at my artifact reflections, and then go back and revisit this concept map and see how the links I created in those reflections are reinforced throughout the map. I dedicated a separate page for the framework because on this page I wanted to specifically explain how the themes and metaphor fit together, particularly because I was adding another layer to the framework, the metaphor, on top of the themes I introduced on the overview page. The metaphor and the theme paragraph near the bottom of this page right here is key to tying this dual structure together for any visitor to my site. Plus, the YouTube video clip of a classic Miles Davis performance may help to add a visual aspect to my metaphor and theme. Finally, to the future performances page here. A jazz musician continuously looks to improve in the craft of songwriting, collaborating, producing music, and entertaining live audiences. And on the future performances page, I wanted to discuss future areas for research and development in educational technology. These areas strongly connect with topics mentioned in my artifacts and my themes. For example, developing a unit and further developing that unit actually on digital citizenship and internet literacy. I also wish to further investigate flipped classrooms, the effectiveness of them for upper elementary students beyond mathematics classes, and I also want to develop programs aimed at young girls who may want to pursue tech-related educational opportunities and careers in the future. These are three areas I'm very passionate about in educational technology, and hopefully I will have the chance to further develop these in the near future. Finally, my other professional goals, I do want to seek out more professional development opportunities in the areas I listed above, along with some other practical goals that I have. I would like to join a public speaking club to improve my public speaking and presentation skills. I would like to improve my web design skills and eventually pursue a technology consultant position after establishing more years of classroom experience. 21st century learners are lifelong learners, and this is evidence that I still want to continue to improve and learn as an educator and as a student. Thank you for taking the time to watch my video reflection, and I hope this has deepened your understanding of my creative process in building this ePortfolio.